Hi and welcome to another episode of Top Volts, and today we're going to be looking at the Vanwall, Scalextric Vanwall. It's the, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly actually, the C55, first released in 1960 as part of their first edition catalogue. These are actually a very solid looking car, with a fair amount of detail with the exhaust, the nice windshield and the driver there. And even the underside is very sort of aerodynamic looking. It's a nice sturdy looking car. It's held together with two retaining clips, one at the front, one at the back, and you have the looped braids. On these they appear to be very loose, so possibly not even making connection. So we need to have a little closer look at that and see what's happening there. So we'll open this up and have a look, see what's going on inside. So you want to pull just until you feel resistance, and that means it's clear of the catch, and the same on the back. Just pull until you feel resistance. Perfect. Okay, so let's lift this body shell off. Overall, in good condition, very clean. So we're running the RX motor. We look to have all the original pinion and rear cog. Feels fairly smooth, possibly an oil needed. The brushes, yeah, they look to be in good condition. There's plenty of meat on there, and the solder joints look good. So we remove the front axle for now, and onto the braids. So it looks like this catch isn't seated very well, so that forms part. So the guide on the underside where the braids come through is this section there, which is a separate section altogether to what holds the actual braids in place. So here you've got the guide, which pushes down on these two clips. That clicks into place and kind of acts as a separate component altogether. So the front here, which slots into a groove in the chassis, and that should hold those brushes into place and give a little bit of flexibility. So if I just ease that back into the slot, and we see if that's made a difference. Yeah, straight away you can feel there's a difference. So that obviously wasn't seated very well. We may have to have a little look at the body shell, because these kind of predate the rubber on some of like the Jags and the Aston Martins sort of a couple of years later. They tend to have these rubbers, and actually some 1961s have this rubber there as well. This possibly needs the rubber put back, which might be why that's lifting out. So I may have to source one of these, but we'll check this anyway and just see. So that pulls out very easy. Looking at the braids, I think they do need to be rebent a little bit at the end there just to catch. So on these, you've got two brass tabs that sit just on the edge here, and they make connection to the braids, which are the loop braids, which sit on a brass tab with the loops soldered to them. So they tend to sit in this slot. And looking at this one, it needs to have the end just rebent. So what we need to do is that we'll remove the guide. So we just want to carefully just press those through, and then that should come away. So that's the guide there, and these are the two catches that click into the chassis. Okay, so then that enables us to remove the looped braids. So as you can see, they're on a brass tab, and they're literally soldered straight on. And this looks to need just to be rebent. So I'll just place it under there. See if I can just give that, yeah, literally, it doesn't need a lot, just a tiny bit like that. Put a bit of an angle on it, so when it goes back into the slot, it kind of pushes towards the front. And then when you slide the other contact on, it will push against it, creating a bit of friction, and will also enable that to sit lower on the car. So a little bit more of a kink, and that will bring it down onto the track a bit more and give a bit more spring. And we'll do that with both. So just give a bit more kink. So I tend to place my tool just in the corner there and just give it a light press. These are very weak, so it's probably something you have to do quite routinely when you're using the car, because they will tend to bend back again, and over time they'll just get weaker and you end up having to replace this. So we'll put the guides, the brushes, sorry, the braids back into place. That's the first one. And the second. Just make sure they're sitting tidy in their location. Okay, and now we need to place this. Actually, before we do that, we need to put the guides back. So we'll slide the guides just in between those and gently press back down into place. Perfect, so now they're back in. Okay, and we slide that back into the slot so that seats back in there, and I can actually feel that was gripping. Yeah, that's perfect. So that's sitting nicely now. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll give the motor just a quick clean with a tiny bit of alcohol. Just place it onto the motor and then just do a light turn. And that's already cleaned that up. Okay, that's perfect. And then we'll give it just a light bit of oil. What I may do is just place it on this rear axle, as it looks very dry. Just one on this rear axle as well. And once again, just onto the spine of the motor, just so it soaks in, and then a very, very tiny amount just in that slot. Now let's turn that in and see if it yes, that feels much better. Perfect. So let's put the front axle back on. And once again, what we've got are these brass that we want to place either side, because what you want to make sure is this is clear of the chassis of the car, and they help locate it. So let's place the body shell back on, just making sure these retaining clips are pulled away so we don't bend those as we're placing the body shell back on, and just ensure that there's no wires in the way of these areas there. In the center, you've got 2 points where you have 2 tabs that fit into those 2 points. So if your cables or your wires are in the way, you will pinch those. It's just ensuring that there's nothing there's going to get pinched or break after you've done all the work. So let's place that body shell back on, and we'll turn it over and then carefully push those tabs back in. Perfect. So our next job is to run this up and just make sure it's operating as it should. Okay, so we'll keep the volts low and then slowly bring these in. These RX motors sometimes take a little bit of running in after you've been worked on, so it does take sometimes a little bit of time at sort of low revs before it really starts to pick up a little bit. So let's switch the power on. Just lift those back wheels ever so slightly. Okay, so that come on okay. And we'll just leave it like that just for a moment. Just allow those brushes to seat themselves. And now I'll slowly increase the volts. Okay, that's working really well. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found the content of some use, maybe some of the tips. As always, if you have any comments or helpful tips or information on these old cars, even this one in particular, please leave a comment in the comment section. I'll try my best to get back to you. But as always, any information, any tips, any advice is always welcome for myself and others. Well, thank you very much, and I'll see you at the next one.